Good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Jubi Arriola-Headley, and I'm with the Municipal Waste Management Association. And I'm so glad you could join us here today to talk about this important topic, how glass recycling works in high-performing MRFs. This, if you've been with us for most of our webinars this year, you know, is part of a series of conversations we've been having about glass recycling. This time last year, I myself was not as educated about this topic as I could be. And that's when we at MWMA began conversations with the Glass Recycling Coalition and the Glass Packaging Institute, saying, we've been hearing in the media and the trades how glass recycling is this challenge in so many communities, and what can we do about this? And somebody I'm going to introduce you to pretty shortly, Scott DeFife, made us clear that part of what is necessary to deal with this challenge is advanced planning, is understanding the full scope of the issue, and that it's not really the challenge in the ways we think it is, or the ways that often we read it is. So, because it's important to our constituency at the Municipal Waste Management Association, cities and counties and solid waste authorities across the country, we said, let's let people know. Let's work together to bring folks the information they need to be able to recycle glass effectively. It's a high value product, or it can be, and we want to make sure we know what we're doing. So this brings us to today, how glass recycling works in high performing MRFs. And I have to say, I was lucky enough recently to get to tour, and you're going to hear from a representative of the Balcones recycling facility, Murph, recently, and I learned a lot just from that tour. So it was wonderful. So I am so glad that we have the panel assembled we have today, because I think you're going to learn a lot. So before I introduce them to you, let me just do the Zoom webinar logistical speech that you all know by now by heart. Because this is a webinar, you're all muted. You need to use the chat function at the bottom of your screen to submit questions in writing. And please feel free to submit questions at any point. We're going to save some time at the end to go over them, but you should submit them as soon as you have them. And just so everybody knows, this webinar is being recorded, which means that we'll be pleased to be able to post this on our various websites afterwards, so that you have access to it, and so that you can share it with anybody in your organization or your constituency that you want to. With that, let me introduce you to the wonderful panelists we have today. We've got Scott DeFife, who runs the Glass Packaging Institute, who is becoming my glass guru, and who I've had more of the conversations with about glass than I ever thought I would. We've got Travis Barnes from the Hillsborough County, one of our municipalities, who can talk from the municipal perspective about why it's important. And then we've got a series of folks who are going to explain to you where they are in the process and how they do what they do, and what you need to know to help them be as effective as they can be, and how they can help you be as effective as you can be. We've got Mick with MidAmerica Recycling, Andrea Rodriquez with FCC Environmental Services, Jake Hansen with SSR/Balcones Recycling, love their facilities. And then that's a slide of me. So I don't introduce myself again, I'm Jubi. So we're gonna go through these folks. I'm gonna hand it over to Scott in a moment. And then at the end, remember, we're gonna leave some time for Q&A. So please get those questions in as soon as you have them. If you already have questions, go ahead and put them in. If we answer them during, great. If not, we'll get to them at the end. So with that, let me hand it over to my glass guru. Scott, it's up to you.
Thank you so much, Jubi. And I want to say at the outset, it's really been a great partnership and a pleasure to work with you and MWMA and the U.S. Conference of Mayors to talk about glass. And I'm so happy that you count me as a guru rather than a pest. So we'll take that, but thank you very much. And I agree with Jubi. We've got a great panel here today, and we're happy to bring this next in a series of seminars to you to help explain glass recycling and what the different components are, and how I feel like we can do it better. And also importantly, show everyone real life examples of material recovery facilities and single stream systems that are doing glass well. I am Scott DeFife. I'm the president of the Glass Packaging Institute. We are the trade association that represents the glass container manufacturers, but also all of the supply chain partners to glass container manufacturing, including the use of recycled glass and glass recycling processors. I'm coming to you from Atlanta. We just finished up our annual meeting where we spent the whole morning talking about ways to improve glass recycling across the United States and what the industry can do to participate and help grow that system. I like to start off any of the stories that we have this year to give with some perspective about glass recycling in the United States. And earlier this year, we released a report that was a culmination of work from the previous year or two in consultation with the Boston Consulting Group that was really a study of how to get the US glass recycling rates up to 50% to be consistent with federal and national EPA goals, but also glass container manufacturing consumers, which are the end markets, the people, the food and beverage manufacturers who decide to put their products in glass, and to move the national recycling rates for glass from the low 30s to over 50%. In addition, how to get enough of that material to the nation's glass manufacturing plants so that we can increase the average recycled content of your typical North American bottle or jar up to 50% as well. And in this study, we examined all of some gaps in the supply chain and a regional look at how to address some of the issues in each part of the country, assessing what are the glass recycling rates across the country, and then using different strategies to plug the gaps and fill the need in order to get the glass in certain regions to the manufacturing facilities in certain regions. Knowing that you have a goal, you have to understand where you're starting in order to achieve that goal. And today, again, there is a wide variety of glass recycling rates throughout the country. In our study, we found that Oregon, which was a bottle bill container deposit state, had the highest rate of glass recycling. And largely that's because they have a container deposit program that is fairly efficient. And in addition, the major metropolitan areas in Oregon often use curbside source separated, what we call glass on the side, or a modification to the single stream in order to keep the glass separated from the rest of the materials in the commingled truck. But as you can see, even having a bottle bill program such as New York at 51% or California at 67% can vary at the effectiveness of those programs. And then largely in other states around the country, we were seeing an average rate of 24%, but variety there everywhere from single digits and teens that in states where there are glass manufacturing facilities. And that is a core of our focus and leads us to the discussion that we're having today about single stream MRFs. It is critical for the industry to reach its goals that we do better with single stream. Single stream is the primary source of recyclable collection in this country. Changing that would take a great deal of time, and getting better quality and more material and better yield out of MRFs and out of single stream systems is a key to having the industry achieve its goals. In this map is a map of the US infrastructure. There are end markets all around the country. Let's pay special attention today, not only to the circles which include glass container manufacturing facilities and glass recycling processors, but today we're talking about some of the stars on this map. The Glass Recycling Coalition Glass Certification Program for MRFs, gold, silver, and bronze level MRFs. We have 13 in the country right now, and this is a free program that the Glass Recycling Coalition works on to help improve and show the way for glass recycling at material recovery facilities. The key to this whole debate for glass and glass markets is quality. Quality matters. In many states, and in many situations, the picture that you see on the left, or at least it's on my left as I'm looking at it, is Murph glass. And at many Murphs, that glass, the Murph glass pile, can be 40 or 50% residual contamination, as opposed to drop-off glass or container deposit program glass, which you can see very clearly is glass in a bunker on the other side of the picture. But the Murph glass situation is what we really want to talk to you about today, and some simple steps aimed at improving that yield will go a long way to making that glass marketable. In addition, we've worked to put some very basic information on glass recycling, guidebooks, and facts and figures for municipal governments, county governments, and sustainability leaders at the state and local level up on our website. You can see all of this on the gpi.org website. So the Murph Glass Certification Program. This is a program that the GRC has started that we think is really doing well. Like I said, we've got 13 Murphs. The three representatives that we have on the webinar today are all Murph operators that have gone through the Murph Glass Certification Program and have been certified as Gold Star certification members. I'm going to take a minute to, well, here's the 13. And so we've got the gold, silver, and bronze level, and really that's a designation about the different levels of contamination or the purity of the glass that's coming out of the Murph, plus end markets and beneficiation processing that many of our Murph glass certification members actually take the glass to the next level and process that glass into furnace-ready color. So how to apply and how to participate in the Murph Glass Certification Program. It's really a two-step process. We tried to make it as simple as possible. None of this is completely free to participate in. Number one is an online application form. It's on the Glass Recycling Coalition website at glassrecycles.org, and it is a relatively easy form that can be filled out in a matter of minutes, certainly in less than 20 to 30 minutes total, especially if you're prepared for the materials that go through there, the questions that go through there. And then second, Murph glass sample testing. And no, this does not mean we want you to bundle up some of your Murph glass and send it to us. This is virtual testing, if you will, photographs and 3-day part samples that need to be submitted to an independent and applicant blind review panel of industry experts applying the ISRI National Murph Certification quality standards to the glass. And so we want to make sure that we are clear that we're talking about industry experts in the field. No one knows which Murphs are being reviewed when they're reviewing the material that's being submitted. And it is done in an anonymous manner. And we report back to the Murph that has submitted the material before we make any of the information public. And thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer questions at the end about the GRC certification process. And next, I think I'm turning it over to Travis.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for participating today. Scott provided a great summary of the current status of glass recycling in the US and where we hope to take glass recycling. Again, my name is Travis Barnes. I'm the recycling coordinator with Hillsborough County. We're located in the Tampa Bay area on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Would love to have you come visit. Next slide, please. So Hillsborough County has recently been going through the process of updating the solid waste chapter of our comprehensive plan. And we have a vision to be a sustainable solid waste system that provides long-term, sustainable, and financially responsible solid waste management to our residents and businesses. And as part of that effort, the county will formally adopt the EPA's waste management hierarchy, which I'll touch on later in a few slides, but that's important because it kind of frames our view of how we look at glass in our system. So Hillsborough County is the 4th most populous county in the state, and we've been one of the fastest growing counties in the US over the past few years. We operate a fully integrated waste management system. We have a Class 1 landfill, a waste to energy facility that processes about 1,800 tons a day that does have metal recovery systems in place, 2 transfer stations, 3 yard waste processing facilities, household hazardous waste collection sites, a biosolids and yard waste composting facility, and we provide curbside collection via franchise waste haulers. We have single stream recycling with roll carts. And the county's waste to energy facility has been at capacity since about 2014. So currently we've got about 10 years left of active airspace in our current landfill cell, although we are beginning to work towards permitting the next active cell. We managed close to about 1.1 million tons of MSW last year, and that's just the material entering our system directly or via our contracted vendors. It doesn't include a lot of the materials that are directly being recycled from other municipalities or businesses to other businesses. So I mentioned the EPA's waste management hierarchy. Hopefully you all are familiar with that. And it shows an environmental preference for waste reduction, followed by reuse, then recycling and composting, followed by energy recovery, and finally least preferred is landfilling. So of the 1.1 million tons the county directly manages at our sites or via our contracts, in 2016, we only recycled about 16% of that. And that doesn't really account for the overall recycling rate in the county, which we're closer to about 49%, but of the tons that we directly manage, again, at our sites. So there's a lot of private sector business recycling in the commercial sector or multifamily, or again, our other jurisdictions are doing that aren't reflected in those numbers. But what it goes to show is that there's a lot of room for improvement for the tons that are hitting our system to be managed in a more responsible manner. And that's really what our goal is moving forward. Next slide, please. So the fact is that most of our municipal waste stream, at least in Hillsborough County, is brought up into kind of 3 broad categories. We've got about 70% that consists of targeted recyclables or compostables that we can get at in some proving way with existing technologies and approaches. And then we've got about 10% that is potentially going to be recycled in the future. Think about your flexible packaging, some of your juice pouches, those types of things, but aren't really readily recoverable in most MRFs at this point. It's something that the industry is working on. And then there's about 20% of material that is nearly impossible to recycle from a single stream program with today's existing technology. Think dirty diapers, skateboard wheels, the artificial Christmas trees, bowling balls. You've done composition studies. You've probably seen all of that in your program, unfortunately. I think what's important to note on this slide is that glass is actually one of the materials that can be more easily recovered with proven technology. And it's something that we feel we should be targeting because of that. The Recycling Partnership released their 2020 State of Curbside Recycling report and found that glass was about 18.8% of the recovered commodity stream in the US, which was 3rd right behind mixed paper and cardboard. Hillsborough County, we recently did a recycling composition study last year, found similar numbers, about 15.8% of our recycling is glass. And we do about 5,200 tons of single stream recycling each month. So that's about 120 tons roughly of glass each month, which is significant tonnage. The University of Florida also recently published a report in March of last year where they did a survey of all the MRFs in Florida, and of those that participated, they found again that glass was one of the most commonly recycled items and most recovered items. Next slide, please. So as Scott touched on a little bit, and as all of you have probably heard, there are a few challenges with glass, but I think that those can be overcome, and I'll hope to speak to that with a future slide. But we're fortunate to have Strategic Materials, which is a processing facility located a couple counties south of us, where the glass from our jurisdiction goes via our contracted Murph. And you can see the picture on the left of a transfer truck delivering it there. And then again, the picture on the right of that Murph glass. This isn't necessarily from our jurisdiction, but when we were out there doing the site visit, we saw it. And again, lots of contaminants in that glass. So hopefully the speakers after me can talk about how they're doing a better job to clean up that Murph glass. Currently, we have in our contract an average market value that we calculate the value of a typical ton of our curbside recycling. And in our region, that's valued at negative $35 a ton in the Southeast region. So we make sure to reflect that negative value is in our average market value so that the county is helping to contribute to our cost of glass recycling, because we know that it is a cost locally in our region, at least right now. But our landfill tipping fee is currently $84.20 per ton. So it still makes it financially attractive for our county to recycle glass. However, there has been recent pressure on other municipalities to drop glass from their programs. Recently here, we had the city of Temple Terrace, which is one of our smaller cities in our jurisdiction, actually opt to remove glass from their dual stream recycling program. And the fact is, when they went out to bid, the bids came in for one price that was much cheaper for them to eliminate glass. And in my opinion, unfortunately, they made that decision on an economic basis to remove glass from their program. So as you can imagine, the local media coverage on that, the mixed messaging coming from Temple Terrace led to a lot of resident confusion for county customers, as well as our other municipalities that still do accept glass. And it just kind of led to a little bit of kind of the need to go out and re-educate people about the importance of recycling glass and why we still keep it in our program. I think the key point that we need to talk about here is that municipalities sometimes have differing or even competing goals compared to the privately operated MRFs, and that our goal is to maximize the environmental stewardship of the materials that we manage, whereas a private waste company or a private MRF understandably is focusing on maximize the profit of their business. And those two goals don't always necessarily align. Next slide, please. So now let's focus on why glass recycling is important. So there's lots of studies in the literature that have shown that recycled glass can substitute up to 95% of raw materials used in manufacturing of glass containers, and there is environmental benefit from that. As I mentioned earlier, the county also has limited landfill airspace, as do many municipalities. So we have a strategic goal to preserve the landfill as a last resort, knowing the difficulty associated with permitting a new landfill, as well as the additional cost and the long-term risk of that, especially in Florida where there's a higher risk of sinkholes. The county is also developing our own sustainability goals focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and recycling glass can play a role in helping with that. We also have the state of Florida's 75% recycling goal, which is currently a weight-based goal. And as you all know, glass is very heavy, and as I spoke to earlier, makes up a significant portion of our recycling stream, so that helps towards that recycling goal. The US EPA's Recycling Economic Information Report found that in a single year, recycling and reuse activities in the US accounted for 750,000 jobs, 36.6 billion in wages. So that's about, for every 1,000 tons of material recycled, you get 1.57 jobs out of that compared to landfilling. So we feel that there's an economic reason to keep glass in the supply chain and out of the landfill as well. And if you ask most people in the US, what's an item that can be recycled? Many of them will say glass. And the Glass Recycling Coalition's recent survey in 2020 found that over 90% of consumers expect to be able to recycle glass. And we know that our residents will continue to try to recycle glass if we were to remove it from the program. We do have an issue where we've been fighting contamination throughout the state of Florida and here in our jurisdiction. And if we were to remove glass, that would become an additional contaminant in our recycling program, and I think it would come back to bite us in a different way. Next slide, please. So what can municipalities do? First, leverage your recycling tons. Although some private MRFs may not necessarily want your glass, they do want all the other higher value commodities in your program. So you need to work with your processor to let them know and explain the importance of glass recycling to you and your community, and to share in the cost of glass recycling. And when your recycling processing agreement goes back out to rebid, make sure you're updating your specifications to require glass recovery. As an example, we've got a forthcoming bid that'll be coming out later this year, and we're going to require that the bidders provide a glass cleanup system capable of capturing 3-mix glass and cleaning that grit and paper and the non-glass residues out of that and processing it to 3/8 of an inch size or larger. We're also going to have a performance capture rate of 85% on that container glass that is collected curbside. And finally, in Hillsborough County, we have residents that live, work, and play all across Tampa Bay's various municipalities. So knowing that your jurisdiction can't control what your adjacent municipality may do, it's vital to make sure that you can continue to have frequent and open dialogue with those jurisdictions, so that if there are going to be changes coming to their programs and how that might impact yours, as the example I mentioned earlier with our municipality that dropped glass. And if you can get out in front of that and help work together on common messaging, that can really benefit both jurisdictions, residents, and help eliminate some of that confusion. A recent example here in Tampa Bay is our Tampa Bay Recycles.org campaign, which is a partnership between Hillsborough County, City of Tampa, Pinellas County and City of St. Petersburg, which are our 4 largest jurisdictions. And we focus on the common messaging that benefit all of us. So even though we might have different rules as to what's acceptable in our program, we focus on eliminating bagged recycling, eliminating plastic bags and other tanglers as an example. And another point worth mentioning that's not on my slide, but that Scott brought up is that increasing your landfill tipping fees is often an effective way to incentivize more waste diversion from your landfill. A little bit more challenging in terms of the political ramifications of that and actually, you know, the other consequences of increasing your tipping fees. But that is one way that you can incentivize more glass recycling by making sure that that competition with the landfill isn't quite as robust. If you have higher tipping fees, it incentivizes that glass to be recovered. And with that, I'll be available for questions afterwards. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Travis. I'm Mick Berry, and I'm the president of MidAmerica Recycling. We're a very large recycling company at one point. We had 17 plants in 9 states. We divested of those as we all became old and went into retirement, but we also got recycled and brought back into the arena and have a plant here in Des Moines, Iowa, which is a single stream Murph, a commercial single stream Murph, an industrial recycler, we handle the deposit system here in Iowa, which is a deposit state. We're also a glass beneficator, which means we take the raw glass from the deposit system and drop sites and clean them and prepare them and make furnace ready cullet. Our Murph glass, however, we continue to, we process it, and we'll show you that here in a moment. And then we sell that up to our friends at SMI, who are, I'm happy to say, their regional manager, their new regional supply managers online listening, has a great name, Mickey Berry, my son, got a little parental pride. And we also do big retail recycling for the big brand names in their recycling programs where they have the mixed recyclable bales. So we're a multi-material recycling facility, but Iowa's largest Murph. We're also the largest recycler in the state of Iowa. And as I said, we were actually the largest privately held recycler back in the early 2000s until we divested. So now we'll go on to the slides, please. And the first slide will show you that here in Iowa, which is a deposit state, 3-mix glass is 12 to 14% of the inbound tonnage here in the Des Moines Metroplex, as well as across the state. And it's all collected in single stream curbside. As Travis mentioned and Scott did earlier, glass is the 3rd largest commodity we see here in Iowa and nationally. And you'll see on the slide that, newspaper, mixed paper combinations, about 45–50% of the material coming in, cardboard's the other 25%, and then it's followed by glass. And nationally, the deposit glass is about 20 to 22% from what I could dig up from the Container Recycling Institute data. One of the key things, and Travis mentioned it in passing, but I wanted to make it another key point as the owner of the Murph and the president of the company. Residential single stream is really a municipal effort and generally run and managed by the municipalities, even if they have a contract processor, much like MidAmerica Recycling. So I think it's critical that we look at, why do we do single stream recycling? And the reason is, as Travis said, is in Hillsborough County and as well as here in Iowa, it's to do the right thing, to protect the environment and to minimize the waste going into the landfill. So it just amazes us, even though we're the private owners of the facility and we have to make ends meet, as Travis brought up. But most communities are now thinking, why don't we just get rid of glass? It's something that's bad, and it's not. It's the most recyclable commodity in the system. It has the lowest losses of anything that we recycle once it gets to the end market. So the furnace ready cullet that goes into the facilities like at Owens, Illinois, or over at Our Dog Glass, where our glass goes, that's almost 100% recoverable. It doesn't get lost in the shuffle. It just gets recycled. Whereas paper has a 10 to 15% loss in the mill itself, on top of the fiber losses here in the recycling plant. So we highly encourage, as a private recycler, the glass recycling is critical to stay in the curbside versus inconveniencing the customers at the curb and saying, "Oh, take your glass, 20 blocks down the street, and the rest of it can stay at your curb." So it's really critical that we look at the participation and why we do single stream recycling. So now I'm going to take you into the plant and take a look at what the glass looks like. Kind of different approach than maybe what you've seen in some other webinars and what you'll see from the upcoming speakers. Our system is a single stream for residential recycling, and we recover the glass. And what we recover is what you're seeing on the screen right now. And you'll see that is what is in there. And there's a lot of glass, but it's a lot of lids. Shredded paper is the death of all single stream recycling because it looks like it snows when the shredded paper comes in, and it winds up in the glass system because all the air knives blow all the fines over to the line that takes the glass out of the systems across the country. And you'll see this, and if you go to the next slide, please. You'll see here's a bigger, broader view, and you'll see it going outside in the conveyor. So this has come through the single stream system, is now being fed into another conveying system to go outside. And then you'll see shortly a slide with a picture of a very simple operating piece of equipment. In the next slide, please. And this picture is, we made this ourselves. Again, we're a glass beneficator, so we kind of know what glass does. We're able to trommel and clean with air all the labels, lids, and garbage off, and the glass comes out the other end. I'm going to kind of just be very general on this because it's kind of a proprietary project for us, but it's not all that top secret, but it's very easily done. And what happens then is we get the next slide, which will show you the pictures of the clean glass coming out into the bin. And if you look, now you see nothing but glass and a few labels and maybe a couple lids. And the next slide will show you even greater detail, the finished pile. So this is a pile of glass out back in our shipping bay that will go directly to Strategic Materials in St. Paul. The reason it goes there instead of comes into our beneficating system is we don't have color sorting. And there's no reason to not take it up to someone who has color sorting. And we've developed a strong partnership with SMI to do that for us. So this glass will leave our property, go up to Minneapolis, and we get paid for it. It's not a cost to us. And this is the glass ready to ship by truckloads. 25 tons of truck goes out of here, and we do 300 tons of glass, and we recover probably 90 to 95% of the inbound single stream glass winds up at the furnaces at RDA after Strategic Color sorts it. And then because we are a beneficator, these are our finished glass systems where you'll see the brown and the clear sorted. This is from drop sites and all the deposit material. And we do about 2,000 tons a month of that material. And all that cleaning system is inside the building, and this is just ready to ship. I'm kind of moving quickly because we're a little bit off schedule. So I'm open for questions at the end. And I think, and there's my contact information. And again, I'd like to thank Scott and everybody for putting this together, because I think it's important for the municipalities to understand glass is a critical path and needs to be recycled. And Andrea, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks. I think you need to unmute yourself, Andrea.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? I was just saying, thanks, Mick. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank Marisa and Jubi for inviting me to be part of this great conversation. What I'm going to talk about is how FCC promotes and encourages the recycling of glass, how we partnership with the city of Houston to bring glass back to the recycling program, and what technology we are using to produce high quality glass that receives the glass certification gold. But before that, I wanted to touch base a little bit on who is FCC and what are we doing. So the FCC group, we are a 120-year-old company, leader in environmental services with presence in over 35 countries, and we have almost 60,000 employees in the company. In the next slide, we show a little bit of our US history, which is just bringing that our first contract was signed with the city of Barcelona in 1911. Our first recycling facility was built in 1960 in Spain, so we have more than 60 years of experience doing this. And in green is our presence in the US. We came here in 2008, and since then we've been growing with a strong presence in Florida, Nebraska, and Texas. The following slides represent a map of where is our presence in the world. As I said, 35 countries, 60,000 employees. And following to this slide is our presence in the US, a little bit more of detail. So our references are here in Houston, in Central Florida, South Florida, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and in the Midwest in Omaha. This is a summary of our contracts. And in the next slide, I'm going to focus in our two MRFs. We have right now two MRFs in the United States. The first one that we built is the City of Dallas MRF. We were awarded the contract with the City of Dallas back on September 2015, and this plant was ready to begin operations by January 1st, 2017. It has the latest technology and innovations. This plant was built for including glass in the recycling program. So we put a system to separate the glass, and we'll talk about it later. And it's also built around education. In this picture, you can see part of our gallery view. We can do the construction of a gallery view so our tours can go to the facility and actually look at what's going on live, and they can learn about that. The facility was awarded the best recycling facility by the MWMA in 2017, and it has a capacity of 140,000 tons per hour. Our next MRF is the Houston MRF. And this one was awarded by the City of Houston and the contract on January 2018. It's a 15-year contract. And we actually partner with the City of Houston for bringing back glass to the recycling program. The previous incumbent stopped to accepting program, and that was there was a big problem for the mayor because the citizens wanted to recycle glass. So we bring that back. Again, latest technology and innovations. We have, as you can see in this picture, climate control environment for FCC. Safety is a key, it's core part of our values. And we believe that the employees work better when they are in an environment controlled cabin with no dust and no noise. This facility was awarded as well the best recycling facility in 2020 by the National Waste Recycling Association. It has a capacity of 145 tons per year, and it has the largest tipping floor in Texas. And in the next slide, we're going to talk about the awarded program of glass. Both facilities have been awarded the glass certification, the gold one, and that level. We do, as I said, recover the glass in both facilities. We are very proud of having this certification, and we believe, as Travis, Scott, and Mike said, that the glass should be recycled. Mick pointed that almost 100% of the glass is recyclable. We believe in that. We believe on diverting material from the landfill, and that's why we encourage all the citizens to include glass in their recycling bins. So just wanted to go a little bit on the technology part. In the next slide, I'm explaining how we remove glass in our MRF. So the first thing that we remove is the glass because it's abrasive and it can create a lot of maintenance problems. So this video, what it shows is how all the materials falls into a screen, which is made with a steel shaft. And when the glass impacts the steel, it will get break, and it will be recovered through the holes of the steel in the middle section. That is also having, as Mick's picture was saying, a little bit of contamination that will be a small material. For example, a shredder paper or caps or something like that. If we take that material, convey it into another system, which we'll see the video next, in the next slide, which is it's a combination of a vibratory screen and a density separator. So we're going to go really fast for this video for the sake of the time. This is a pilot one we have in a big scale in our facilities. And what it does, it has a vibratory screen that it has some holes in mats, and the glass will fall through those holes. And the rest of the material that is separated, that is big enough, will be recovered far down the line in the system. That glass, as I said, it comes with a little bit of a shredder paper. And as you can see in the video now, we separate the shredder paper with a big current of flow of air in our densimetric equipment. It's called a Weller equipment, and it's just basically a big flow of air that separates the glass in 3 different streams, what we call the fines or some type of ceramic that is not glass that you can see in this picture. The next one, it will be, those are the fines, sorry. The next one would be the shredder paper, which will include a little bit of film or small plastics. And the next one, which is the clean glass. And as I said, we're very proud of having a very good glass. We also get paid for it. We have several customers that they wanted to buy our glass, and we're happy on that. On the next slide, we can see, I wanted to touch base a little bit on education. We partnership with the city of Houston. Education was needed at the time that we opened the facility because a lot of the citizens, they were not putting glass in their recycling bin, and then they need to get the message that they are encouraged to put it back into the recycling bin. So when we started this contract in 2019, the glass that was coming, it was way lower than what Travis is seeing in Florida or Mick is seeing in Iowa. It was at 4%. Right now, through all the campaigns that we're doing together with the city of Houston, we are at between 10 and 12%. So we're still encouraged and working on that. As I said, we build facilities around education. The kids can come see and learn how important it's recycle. And with that, I'm going to pass the work to Jake.
All right, thank you for that. All right, so my name is Jake. I work for Single Stream Recyclers, Balcones. We are very happy and feel grateful that you guys awarded us for that gold certificates. Next slide, please. All right, so who we are. We are based out of Sarasota, Florida. Our site sits on about 11 acres and we have a 100,000 square foot building. We process about 50 tons per hour. The volume is right around 10,000 during season, 10,000 during summertime, and then during wintertime down in Florida, all the snowbirds decide to come down here. So we do about 11,000 to 12,000 tons a month. We are part of the Balcones Resources Group facility across the country. We have a site, a Murph in Austin, Texas, and then we have a couple of commercial facilities as well. Next slide, please. All right. Gonna need to mute.
Single Stream Recyclers of Sarasota is a facility just under 100,000 square feet on 11 acres.
Go to the bottom right where the little blue lines are. There we go. All right. So here at Single Stream Recyclers, we have about a 27,000 square foot tipping floor. This is the president of the company prior to going through Balcones merger. We have a dual feed system here at Sarasota, built just in case we have one line go down. We can run the other one just so we can continue to process and produce quality material. As you can see here, we have 2 metering bins. They're built by Matheson out of Germany, and they are our bag separator. We get a lot of contamination in the sense of people putting all the recyclables in bags. We have a 2D, 3D sort right away to get all the glass out of the system. It's very abrasive and it causes a lot of maintenance issues. So we have 2 glass breakers here. They pretty much take the glass out immediately, which it then goes to a vibratory screen, which is built by Spalek. We have a 3D combi screen with them. It then will go to the fine separations, and After that hits our next glass belt, and the vacuum system sucks it up, and it's pretty much out of the system from right there. Unfortunately, I do not have any photos in this video of the system itself, but come down to Sarasota and get some warm weather, and you can see it for yourself. We have 14 robots here in Sarasota, all built by AMP Robotics. All of the plastics that come into our facility are not touched by a single human. They hit 4 optical sorters. We now have a total of 9 optical sorters. We have 2 for fiber, and the other are pretty much just quality controls on our container line. As you can see in this video, AMP Robotics is cleaning up the whole system, and that is going to make our product some of the cleanest PET and quality wise, and other plastics as well. Our glass is 80% clean. So we do commercial recyclables as well. Paper, cardboard, plastic, aluminum, glass are all the accepted materials that we let come into our facility. Glass is pretty much one of our heaviest commodities that come into our facility. It's about 15% in some of our contracts, which is a pretty large portion of the material coming in. We are currently producing 80% of our glasses going into beneficiation, which is fantastic. Strategic Materials, we actually partnered with them on building our system. We originally just had a fiber screen, and it was not doing the trick. We were actually getting charged to get rid of our material. So we later put in a vacuum system, and a couple extra glass belts to pretty much clean up the material as perfect as we could possibly get it. We spent a lot of time working with Strategic to build the perfect system. It's actually almost identical to the one they have in Sarasota here. And it has been a blessing to not have to pay to get rid of that. Next slide, please. So Sarasota, our single stream facility here, is the first Murph to receive the gold certification. We do have we have an 80% glass purity, and we worked with our vendor, Strategic Materials, to clean up the system. Like I said earlier, getting the gold certificate was a huge, we were very pleased to get the certificate, and we feel very honored that we did. And it's been a very fun project to work on, and really truly produce a quality product that is not either going to the landfill or getting charged out of it. We are a private Murph. Obviously we want to make money as well, but like has been stated before, quality is one of our largest thought processes here in Sarasota. We want to make sure we make the best product, whether it's our fiber product or any of our plastic products as well. Our glass is something that we strive for as soon as we had the opportunity to get some really clean glass and be able to help Strategic out. We have Strategic thinks we've got some of the cleanest product in Florida, and it's been really fun. Can you please go to the next slide? As you can see, this is our team here in Sarasota. From left to right, Andrea, then myself, our old plant manager, Paul, and Richard, our new plant manager. You can kind of see in the background of this photo, we've got 2 cyclones that go up and a little downspout on the side. That is where the glass is being sucked, or the fines and the shredded paper, bottle caps, and any other material that made it over our 2-inch separation up on top of our 3D spallic. From there, the fines drop down to a small bunker and is completely taken out of the system, and then it goes to one more belt where the vacuum system hits it. After that, we've got our fluff bunker right there where we bale and separate that as well. Occasionally you get a little bit of UBC and aluminum in there, like caps and stuff like that, which we try to get as well. Excuse me. And that is single stream recyclers.
Thanks, Jake. I think that concludes our presenters, right? So I think we can all come back, and we do have a little bit of time left, which means we could take some Q&A, right? And Richard Spear, who I'm very proud to say is on the MWMA Executive Committee, who is the Director of Environmental Services for the East Baton Rouge Parish and City of Baton Rouge in Louisiana, had a pretty involved question, but I think it speaks to this. It's a local calculation, how to calculate the cost of recycling glass and what makes sense for you. And the first cue that I was already thinking along these lines, because Travis, you mentioned that case locally where a jurisdiction actually decided not to recycle based on a bid they got. But what goes into the calculation? How is it possible that if you're budgeting for the long term, maybe even if your MRF has to institute technologies, how is it possible that given the math you said that you end up there? So I think it becomes this thing of what goes into those calculations and how does that impact where we end up thinking? Is that a reasonable question? I think it's sort of a pivot from Richard's question, but I think it hews to the spirit of it, hopefully. So maybe Scott, you start off and other folks jump in.
Sure, thanks, Jubi. Yeah, the flavor of the chat that was going on and in trying to answer Richard's questions about the economic distance of glass, I think it is local, but it centers around a couple different things. What is the mode of transportation? What is the volume of transportation? How close are you to processing? And what is the quality of the glass that's being transported, right? And so a lot of the economics of the glass, the clean glass, the bottle bill quality glass, and as Mick was saying in the chat, the material that he's sending to over 250 to 300 miles to St. Paul is paying them back for that transportation. Is the cleaner the glass, the longer it will go, right? And certainly rail extends that by hundreds of miles. And I can tell you with great certainty that there is glass from Iowa and Michigan headed south and headed west and going to plants in Georgia and Florida and Colorado, and glass from the Northeast, the New England Northeast area is heading down to Virginia and things of that nature. So good quality glass can travel a good ways, right? So it really is a factor of every additional piece of machinery. And if you saw on the, I was going to ask about how many different parts of the system are there to clean up the glass from the breaker and the vacuum and the sort stream, but every additional step that these folks take is cleaning up that glass another increment and making the value, extending the value and the economic range of that material.
Yeah, Jubi, I think I'll jump in here too, is Scott did a great job answering that question generically, but specifically each MRF has to look at where's the cost savings. Now we're private MRF, just like Andrea's. We discovered very quickly when we took this plant back over, this was our plant since 1979, and it went to another owner for a while, and then we bought it back. But we discovered that glass was going to the landfill from a single stream at about $25,000 a month cost. And now you're looking, I'll pick on Travis because he's the only municipal guy in the place, but if he owns the landfill, maybe he's okay with that. So our local entity, I know that, Travis, I'm just using you as an example for our viewers. But even our local municipality has just built a $30 million MRF to take their own control so they can manage the quality, right? And they've actually looked at dropping glass already because it's not economically feasible because they forgot to put the cleaning systems in that Scott just described. They'll eventually get there, but they may not be incentivized because they own the landfill. So that $25,000 revenue came out of their cash cow that's paying for the MRF because the MRF for the next 3 years will not make any money. Just because that's how they operate it, and they don't have any other ways to add volume. That they're trapped with what they have, and they had to build big, which is all municipalities. No offense to our viewers, but you build big and you have to have volume to feed the build, and it's not here. And so they're struggling with that type of scenario. Now they become a business suddenly, and they realize oh, maybe they're, $3.45 that we've been paying them is more valuable than what they think they're going to get at the end of the day now. But that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is everyone has to look at what they can save, and the savings is diverting it from the landfill. That's why full cost accounting is critical path for any MRF. What's the next step? What's it cost me to put in the cleaning system that Andrea did? Andrea, we wouldn't put that big a one in because we're inventors here and we invented our own little way of doing it, and it cost us probably about $5,000 to build, but we're not telling anybody what we did.
Yeah. And
So Mick, I wanted to add, if it's possible, that Scott was pointing that, yeah, the glass can travel by rail, but we actually ship all our glass by truck. And as I said in the chat, we are shipping it in some cases farther than 300 miles, and we're getting money for it. And it's because, what Mick said, we invested in good quality. I think it's worth it all the time. In FCC, we don't have landfill, so it's we think that we need to divert as much as possible. So if you invest in having a high quality technology, it's worth it. The people will pay for it because it will get in a good quality.
Yeah, and Scott was right. We do ship by rail here, but only our deposit glass goes by rail because St. Paul's close enough. So we go coast to coast with our glass.
To jump in real quick here from a municipal perspective, I think you also need to think about, what's the value of that landfill airspace to your community over time? And also, what's the value of taking that material and put it back into a feedstock for economic output versus having it in a disposal where it's a graveyard for garbage forever, right? So what's the value in encouraging your residents to recycle more, to take ownership of the waste that they generate and try to do the best thing that they can with that? All of that has value furthering other sustainability goals for a community. And I think that if you were to remove glass, that's a step back on some of those other goals that you're trying to achieve. It kind of sends that mixed messaging. So the overall value, even though it might be a little bit costly, as I said, in our average market value calculation, it's negative $35 a ton, but the value of keeping that out of the landfill, of furthering recycling rates, of getting our public to understand the importance of taking ownership of the waste that they generate, to me, that far outweighs that cost.
Wonderful, wonderful. Somebody did ask a question.
Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, I was going to try to recap a couple of the questions, and there was a question on yield loss from processing and things of that nature. And Marissa from RRS has posted a couple links in the chat that have some yield charts and things of that nature. But again, it's going to depend on the processing, and I would defer to my Murph experts here on exact yield loss. But the processing that it's used, can result in a lot of that cullet making it back into a furnace.
Absolutely. And I can see there was a question about can the Murph handle bagged recycling? And I think I know the answer to that, but if one of the Murphs wants to jump in and help us out.
Yeah, so our metering bin is a bag opener is what they call it. There's a drum inside the metering bin that has some spikes on it that rip open to the best of their ability to try to make sure that all the commodities come out of that bag. So the sorters that are picking off the line have a better understanding what's in the bag or what's out of the bag, so we can actually sort the material.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, our Murph is no bags because they jumble up all the screens. So the bags is the culprit, not the material in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually recycle the plastic wrap film. We don't encourage anyone to put it on the Murph because, as Mick said, it can create a problem on the screens, but we actually introduce an optical sorter to remove the plastic wrap film from the two-dimensional material. So we can bail the film and give it another purpose as well.
And Jubi, there was one more question about the number of glass processing facilities in the country, and there's dozens, well over 50. From a variety of different regions. I would say that in our study, we found a couple parts of the country that could use some additional glass recycling. And in addition, there are some parts of the country that are heavy in bottle bill and deposit material, and that processing may not be as adept at handling curbside Murph glass. All the more reason to do a little bit more cleanup at the Murph and and meet the processing capacity that's in the region. But the industry is very willing to help invest in and study ways to bring processing to certain areas where there is a lack of it. It's a bit of a chicken and egg. We have to have access to the glass in order to get the investment capital to build a processing facility, to process the glass.
We are at time, so there's so much more we can talk about. I think two things that came out for me is we could do 2 whole separate symposiums on how you really calculate the value of recycling glass and what financially and B sort of ethically and from a sense of social responsibility goes into that calculation, like you pointed out, Travis, so well at the end. And I really want to do that. So all that to say, Scott, I think we have more work to do, right?
How many more sessions do you want to have?
Right? 4 year. And then I had the benefit, Jake, of touring the Balcones facility in Austin. So I got a close-up look at how that technology can really help clean up the glass at the Murph level. But so I'm going to recommend, if you can tour your Murph, y'all tour your Murph, because it will really give you a sense of what's possible if the Murph has the right technology and if you're partnering with your Murph to get there. But also maybe there's some more work we can do on that. And I say all this to say, I think this was a great session, and it always feels like there's more we can do and more we can talk about. So stay tuned. Thank you to all of our panelists today so much for all the wonderful information you provided. Do you want to say anything, Scott, to close it out?
No, just thank you. And please reach out to the industry if you've got any questions or concerns about glass in your community. We're here to help and try to solve some problems.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure that when I send it out to people, I'm going to include these links that Marissa, who's behind the scenes, has so graciously provided. I'm going to include those with a link to the video and also Scott's information, so you can send Scott all the questions you have and all the challenges you have, because he's been taking them on and he's happy to. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.